So, who are you choosing to become while the world is changing? That is the question for today, and we are going to talk about some news things that's been going on lately. And it's also been a little while since we've been together to do one of these.
Yeah.
Because Tiger's been at the center doing camp all for like the last month, right?
Our annual camp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Annual training. Yeah.
Which I'm sure we'll get into some of that too, of what we've noticed going on in the world as far as news things. And then also what did you see at camp that kind of maybe resembles what people are actually out there experiencing, and bringing it forth to do some regrouping.
I think you brought this up before we got on, that I think we're going to end up with talking a lot about loyalty. And, the spiritual year, like the calendar year, has starts at a certain time and has their ending. And it typically starts in September. And everything that's been leading up here, it's this perfect situations to decide how I'm going to move into the next year. And I know with some of your stories that we're going to be talking about, it really does come down to, how do I want to move forward? How do I want to move forward? What do I want to be a part of? And starting to decide, am I going to keep indulging in the things that work against me, or am I going to start letting that go and move to what builds me?
Well, so I'll go ahead and open up with the stories, and then maybe get Tom to chime in a bit here. So as I was looking, I always look kind of what's the highlight, what's going on this week. And God, this thing kept coming up as far as people attacking other people. And there's been a lot going on in the States, but as I was looking and exploring, I was like, there's stuff going on everywhere.
Yeah.
So I just want to bring up, there was an attack at the Berlin Pride Festival. There was an attack there. In Paris, there was a terrorist this week that was running through the streets, he cut 3 women, screaming, "Allah commanded me." And then in Seattle just had their food festival at the Space Needle, and there was a big shooting there. So, and that's just a couple, because I could have went on and, listed many more, because it seems like every day there's some type of attack going on, people against people. So you want to start and open that, Tom, up with what's your
what I noticed is those 3 were all around the same time, but we haven't heard of anything since then. There hasn't been a major story in that, with regards to that kind of an event, those kinds of attacks by pretty much, it seems like 1 or 2 people, attacking several people. So it's not like something that's, coordinated or.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It seems obviously there's, they must have planned it, or to an extent, there's some sort of plan, but it's not it's more along the lines of lone individuals that are attacking others.
So what's the spiritual? What's your pick
for me,
on it?
I've watched this, over the years, and it seems to me that, confusion looks for souls it can crank up, or the sensitive people that it can stimulate to get us all afraid and all scared. And, if you're religious, you'd call that evil, or an evil influence. If you're more of a spiritual, you'd just say that's some confusion that's moving in. And so that's what I have to say about that.
Well, I agree. It's when you brought up the stories and we started talking about it a little bit, that starting to really discern what's me and not me. Where do I begin and end? What's my business? What's not my business? And I'm bringing that up because I can get possessed if I'm not clear with what my energy needs to be involved in. Right? I'm a sensitive person, and I don't mean sensitive like I'm going to break. I mean, I'm just alert. I'm aware of the environment. I'm sensitive to it.
You're
So
sensitive to thoughts and feelings in the environment.
That's right. Sensitive to the thoughts and feelings of the environment. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. I don't want to desensitize. So what needs to happen is actually I need to have my direction crystal clear. And I need to know what's me and not me, what's my business and not my business. And the common denominator here that I get from all these stories has to do with I get so consumed, or someone gets so consumed with an idea or a pattern of energy, right, that they just start acting on it. They just start doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that whole thing about don't contribute to the problem, right? That it's like we talk sometimes about with these stories that have different politics and stuff like that. It's like, instead of arguing about the other gal or guy that you don't want elected, why don't you put the energy into the person that you do want elected, or the thing that you want to happen? Because what happens is I start contributing to the other energy,
to the confusion
in this case. So when I start having those battles inside me, because that's why we talk about peace, inner peace, not outer peace. There's always going to be different states of consciousness out there. Everybody's going to battle with each other. And that's why inner peace is going to be the ultimate. If we want more peace on earth, it has to do with inner peace. But to kind of the first wave at this, I would say, am I clear with what I want to be involved in? And I'm not going to, I need to invest as little as possible. I need to spend as little as possible into what I don't want. And I need to be much more militant, loyal to what I do want, because I always am going to be aware of the stuff going out there, right? And even with all the experience, I'm sure I'd love to hear what you have to say on this. I'm still aware. I still have thoughts that come into my mind, and, you know, I can get pissed off at stuff, but how much time do I spend in that? Where am I going to put my energy in that? So the quicker I get out of that and back to where I need to be, the more the healing, the more the clarity, etc.
Yeah, I think that's a big part about doing our spiritual work.
That's right.
And being able and going to, like, you know, Reawaken membership every month, where you have like-minded people, or coming to camp, or coming to a retreat, or somewhere where you do your inner work.
That's right.
And really understand, like you're saying, about the discernment, because Tom and I were sharing on a recent podcast that I had an experience where I was around a person that was kind of cranked up about something. And what I brought home, on the way home, I was actually picking up on the other person that was cranked up, that cranked them up. Like, that's how sensitive I am. It wasn't the immediate, it was like the second and the third layer of being cranked up. And so, well, I know, wasn't that crazy, Tom? And so being able to,
normal.
Right. It is normal, and people don't understand it.
That's right.
So that's the part about understanding how our energy works and how sensitive we are as these, lights and skin suits. But for understanding that, and being able to work on that and determine what's me and what's not me, it's, for myself, it's priceless, because I'm noticing it's happening more and more. And what you're saying about being militant in regards to, what do I watch every day? What do I listen to every day? Who am I around every day? And what am I experiencing? That in itself it takes a lot of loyalty to what I've come to do, and who I am as a soul, and how I'm working my journey to be the best part of who I am moving forward with everything I do.
Yeah. And that word loyalty is such a great word, because I've become more aware that it's important that I remain loyal to, what I'm feeling, what my sensitivity says, rather than even what I'm thinking so much. It's just, what are my true feelings in this situation? And I can recognize when my intellect, I start trying to talk myself out of my true feeling. So I want to be loyal where, and if the fear moves in, like a little fear, I won't be accepted, or I'm going to lose my opportunity. When that moves in on me, then I can kind of exacerbate the situation I'm in. And my experience is that people are being sensitive to energy around them all the time. And I have to be, we often use that word militant, which I've always thought was a strange word. Doesn't sound very spiritual.
Tiger just used that word a few minutes ago.
Doesn't sound very spiritual from a
Yeah.
religious point of view to be militant, but militant is, from what that means to me, is being alert
Right.
and concerned enough that I'm not going to accept anything other than what I'm picking up. But boy, that takes confidence. That's the
It takes practice.
antithesis of the training, the training that I've, gotten while I've been back on the planet, and particularly my first 7 years. I'm supposed to listen to other people or second guess myself, when leadership for me is just staying within that track of my feelings
Yes.
and dealing with the facts as they arise. So
you're hitting on the point that I was going to add a couple points on all this. So going back to the stories, I think the thing I'm going to take us on is it's like that Apollo 13. Fear is not an option. Failure is not an option in the Apollo 13 thing. That's famous for saying, failure is not an option. Yeah. Fear is not an option, right? If I'm going to move forward, I cannot indulge, and it's an indulgence.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice. I cannot indulge in fear. So if I've had some kind of environmental situation where somebody's hurt somebody, or in this case, somebody's shot somebody in my environment, I cannot afford to live in fear. Anyone who's listening to this, you cannot afford to live in fear. That is the surest way, that is to say, live in fear, is the surest way to get myself all confused and just attract all the old patterns that I'm outgrowing right back again. So the number one thing is whether I'm being influenced personally or whether I feel the influence around me or things are going on around me, whether it's, terrible stuff like this or politics or family issues, fear is not an option. I need to be the leader of myself. I need to be the leader of myself and make a decision about that. Okay, I feel the fear. I'm worried about that, but that's not the path I'm going to take. To me, that is ultimate leadership. Forget about having to go out and lead other people and all that kind of stuff. That's a natural outgrowth once I've mastered my energy. But fear is not an option.
What if you didn't have to navigate uncertain times alone? What if you had a steady place to land, a place where your intuition is strengthened, not dismissed, where your spiritual questions are welcomed, and where growth feels grounded instead of overwhelming? Welcome to Reawaken. Reawaken is a monthly membership for people who know there's more awareness, more clarity, more connection, and who are ready to access it in a practical way. Inside, you'll receive monthly life regroupings to realign and refocus, ongoing tools to strengthen discernment, intuition, and emotional awareness. This isn't about escaping the world. It's about becoming steady within it. It's about learning to trust your inner compass. It's about moving from reaction to awareness, and it's about remembering who you are and walking forward with clarity. If you're ready to feel supported, aligned, and spiritually grounded, Reawaken is here. Join us and reawaken the part of you that already knows. Yeah, because we're working with, and I say everyone that's out in the world or on the world right now is working with certain levels of confusion. Right. And they're everywhere. It's everywhere. And it's funny because I know I've talked to people throughout the years, is the more and more that I understood about confused souls and, souls that have left their physical bodies and are still on the planet in some form, that there are so many of them on the planet in different layers and different levels. And so in recognizing that the best we could really do, like you're saying, is not live in fear, not be fearful about it, but how can I walk around and go to events and go to the mall and go to the movies and not be scared that some freaky person's going to come in and have a machine gun and take everyone out. And so I think that's a big fear that a lot of people are having these days, and, and going out into public and really being exposed to and open up to all the other energies that are around us.
And that's why we talk about loyalty to our true feelings, loyalty to working with our helpers, our guidance, loyalty to self. Because if I'm on that track, everything will work out. Even if I don't see it, everything will work out.
So I have to trust, once I develop that trust in my true feelings or in my sensitivity, my ESP, the 4 spiritual gifts we've got, and then I recheck with my guidance, is this a place for me to be involved with right now? Or as I've developed that communication with my guidance, kind of instantaneously, I can just ask, do I need to get involved in this little discussion right now? Even as simple as a business discussion at the wrong time. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Like we're pointing out big deals, where some crazy things happening in my environment. But when I work with my sensitivity, as I unfold my awareness and work with guidance, I don't end up in those situations where I put myself in danger. But many times, there is no danger, and yet I think there might be, or that's the pattern. So that's what do you have to say about that?
Oh, I was just going to go there about that.
Go ahead.
You're picking it up. That was the next thing I was going to go off. And I think both of you could share on this a lot, but there is patterns that move through planet Earth. There's patterns that I have, that I work with, working through and to something else. And other people have that. And then there's also such a thing as when a group of people or a country starts changing and it gets away from the way they used to do it, the old pattern, it will go find and migrate to something else, to find and do it again, right? Some people who believe in incarnation, that it's the souls, that the souls come and they try to relive and rehash all that, right? Mm-hmm. Or the psychology is more about, okay, well, people forget and then they go through that evolution again. The young people will come through and they have to go through that process. So one example of this is you have where, for those who are old enough to remember this, you have the old Soviet bloc, mm-hmm. right? And a lot of the people that came before us used to talk about that a lot of the energy that was once over there is going to try to find its way over here and to the Western society.
Right.
And you can see, if you take a step back, a big picture, and you just look at some of the things playing itself out, you can see how those patterns start to move. And the more that people fight and try to rebel and get into they perpetuate it. But the more they work with, okay, what do I need to work with? What level of energy do I need to work with? All of it starts settling down and going back down to where that belongs. So it is truly, we're in a time where we're watching these patterns, watching this energy, if you will, or watching these souls, however you want to, they're all just, I'm talking about all the same thing right now. It's all the same thing, trying to find a home, trying to find a place to play this whole thing out again, right? And so part of my inner leadership is to recognize what's me and not me, right? And then start discerning. That's a great story you told about having that situation, and then you pick it up from the other person and the other person and all this kind of, and it's like,
layers.
The sour grapes of now you tune into all the history of my great-grandfather's grandfather, the whole thing starts coming right down to me because I'm picking it up. And so that's that energy of being aware that there's these patterns, these waves of energy that move through, which is why we talk about, okay, what's the theme of the month? Why do we get together in those, those memberships and stuff? Because we can come and regroup. Okay, there's these waves of things that are moving through, but what's the spiritual energy I need to be a part of? What's the solution that's there? In this case, by the time when everybody are watching this, that's that energy of loyalty. It's there available for me for a solution.
Absolutely. And I guess what comes to me too is regarding, the waves and the patterns, which is kind of funny because I just watched a podcast this morning talking about the patterns of life and all the things that happen on the planet, like, the Spanish flu, then came the COVID,
Yes.
then down the road, there'd be something else. And
Yes.
like, there's patterns of everything. And what really comes to me as you're talking about the patterns and the waves of energy moving around the planet is it's looking for a place to find, like you said, home, but it's looking for groups of people that still are engaged in that fear,
right.
that have not stepped back and go, okay, I'm working on myself. And now, we all have fear, but it's like, how can I regroup around that? How can I understand what I'm feeling? Like going through it and getting a bit, I'll say a little possessed by this person's other person that was coming at him, right? If I did not know and recognize what was going on with me, I'm possessed.
That's it.
I'm absolutely possessed. And I was on the way home. I had all these thoughts in my head and I was like, I get home and then I had an outburst and then I'm like, what the heck is that about?
Right.
But because I've also gotten to the point in my spiritual evolution is I can get to a point where I don't take it further.
Right.
I don't go, let me get the gun and, or and it's funny, but seriously, that's probably what a lot of these confused souls are experiencing when they're just possessed.
Yep.
And they go out and they do things that are just off the freaking wall. And so, so that not being able, in recognizing, what are we feeling within us? Am I feeling fearful? Am I feeling more relaxed or that I can get through this life without being attacked or whatever? Then the confusion won't find their way to me.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
What strikes
100%.
me is there's a lot of talk in the media recently. I've noticed there's a upsurge in people getting back into religion or finding religion for the first time. And I mentioned this before. And another area is demons. They're talking about evil and demons. In the last 50 years of my life, people have evil was kind of on the down low. It wasn't the sort of thing people said. Now they're openly saying it. And what strikes me is the demon in me is what attracts the demons. In other words, the confusion in me attracts the confusion. If I have fear, or if I'm so caught up in an ideology that generates a hate, I'm going to attract that somehow. And I always get a kick out of both sides of, say, let's pick politics, how, one side will call the others a liar, and then the other side calls them the other side a liar. And when you really look at what they're saying, even if they're talking about different intellectual concepts, it's the same energy.
That's
doom and oh my God and fear and justice and retribution and all that. So anyways, I mean, folks who are thoroughly engrossed in that are probably not going to listen to what we have to say. But if you're ready to take a move out of that old pattern, start working with the Wayshowers College subscriptions, where we can start to replace old concepts with new spiritual truths. But the big key is we experience it. So you feel it. So it becomes more real. It becomes more the way that I operate, my modus operandi through the world, rather than, the way I've been trained to do it.
Just to wrap up, at least on the possessive and possessed part, this can, there's been so much fanfare over that, and we watch movies about it and The Exorcist, and your head turns around and all this kind of crap, so it becomes something to be fearful about, right? When in reality it's more of what you're saying. Okay, the negative in me will attract the negative out there. Now, that doesn't mean that, if I'm pure holy, that there isn't going to be negative out there. That's not what we're saying. But it's very easy to get stuck into some weird thinking. And then all of a sudden I start having that bias of where I'll start attracting more and more of that. And one of the things you can see, and you know, everybody seems to have YouTube and a phone or something, but they have these little shorts where you can watch these young people will get arrested, right? For whatever reason, they're trespassing or whatever. And initially it's innocuous. It's very, you know, like it's stupid. And then all of a sudden, finally, when the police officer says, well, I've talked to you for the last 15 minutes about this and you're still doing it, so we're going to take you in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the moment that starts happening, it's like all of a sudden everybody goes AP, right? The person just starts going nuts, right? And that's that same thing of where I'm already in a situation, I'm already locked in, right? Instead of saying, whoa, the cop is here, let me pull my act together, right? Even if the cop is wrong, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I don't need to escalate all this situation for myself. Forget about whether it's right or wrong. This is why we talk in the spiritual community. You got to be aware of what your rights and wrongs are. Not that there isn't boundaries and you don't want somebody to, you know, step on your blue suede shoes. It's, wait a minute, the whole right and wrong, the justice and injustice, that's a slippery slope there. So, but you see these young people the moment they put their hands on them, it's almost like, boom, they just start going nuts, right? And it's that energy of where they're already in it. They're already in it. And it just takes the trigger to then get fully possessed about that idea. Kicking and screaming, the whole thing. It's almost like they're kids.
It's like a tantrum.
Yeah. It's a tantrum
Absolutely.
thing. And yet the one little moment to just say, okay, hold on. Okay, I'll comply. What do you need? All right, great, we'll do that. And then go make the report if you want, whatever. And don't get me wrong, I'm a little bit of a rebel. So, you know, I'm not saying just do whatever people say. It's just, I'm making that as an example of how, and if someone, myself included, if I start stewing an idea and it's wrapped up with some kind of fear, right? I'm going to lose something. Or something's going to happen that I don't want. That little thing just takes one little trigger and I'm now off and running and something is using me. I'm not even in charge anymore. And that's that energy. Why I think you brought up about the loyalty is like, wait a minute. Now I'm more loyal to something out there rather than what's in my best interest. I'm playing a game out rather than what do I need to be doing here? And that's being that inner leadership, that's being in charge. And that keeps me safe from all the people who do get caught up, like the stories you're talking about with the guns and the getting shot. If I'm in that spot where I'm in charge of myself, I will find myself moving away from the areas that have problems. And I don't even have to be a psychic. I don't even have to be able to tell the future. I just will find myself gravitate away from that. Or something will happen where it's like, oh, I missed the opportunity to go there. And then it turns out that was good that I didn't go there, you know, something like that. So the bottom line is, it's amazing how if I get caught up with an idea and I put some emotion, not feelings, emotion behind the idea, it only takes one little trigger and off I go and the whole thing will consume me.
But, you know, being able to not go off on that trigger
That's
and
right.
be consumed by something, it's a slippery slope. And it's also something that we've all been invested in, I'll say, for a long, long time. Like, you know, our parents and their parents and the great grandparents. And, you know, I just did a post today because it's my birthday and I was, saying how, you know, I did a gratitude things, you know, with my mom and dad, and my dad's been passed on since along 92 and my mom's still here. And I just said something like, you know, I still connect with my dad, you know, on the other side. My mom and I have done some really great family healing. And so I just think about the fact that, you know, all the people that are out there really acting out in different ways. And I'm even talking like Iran and different, you know, over in the Middle East, and all the people that are acting out and killing people over there and doing things that are just off the wall. they're at a certain they're at a certain place in their lineage of healing and trying to work with stuff. And sometimes we may have been there 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 lifetimes ago, and gotten to a point now where we can actually work on, and like you're saying, we can actually know what we're coming up against, and do the why am I losing this now? Because it's like leaving my
Well, I mean,
discerning.
Yeah.
Well, we could wind this back. We kind of open with like the big deals, like the big traumatic events in society, but I could bring it back to just having a nice evening, enjoying yourself with friends, and then somebody says something,
yes,
or puts pressure on you or me, and then all of a sudden there's a fear of losing something or a fear of having mucked up, and all of a sudden the whole night's deflated.
That's right.
Because of one little interaction. When I had this happen to me recently, where really my feeling, like what I realized is I need to be more loyal to myself and discern, stop for a moment, instead of doing the same old thing I've always done. Oh, let me fix it. Stop and just say, okay, is this a conversation I need to get involved in right now? Acknowledge the concern, and then there's a time and place to have that discussion. So, it's just a little thing. I mean, you could be out partying and have a great social night, and then at the end of the night, somebody can say something to you that just, or me, burst my bubble. Well, now that's something I've got to take a look at.
Well, I think that also
For
determines.
a while, I'm possessed while I'm like still thinking about it all night and the next day and that kind of thing.
That can be determined by like, where am I at? If it's at the end of the day, I get up at 4 a.m. and I'm fucking tired.
Yeah.
Then my boundaries are lower. My energy is lower. So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
When your energy's lower and you need some rest, that's something that's been occurring to me, like take the nap or.
Well, yeah, Tom. And also like when you're in the band and stuff happens in the 3rd hour and you've been there already 6 hours after, by the time you put everything together and you've,
Oh, you think you know what I'm talking about, huh?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Because I hear it over and over and over. It kind of repeats, Tom, until you get it and go, hey, I'm not. And that's okay, honey. It's your journey. Because I honor that.
Well, I mean, so it's an opportunity.
There you go.
Let's go to that place. It's an opportunity. So we have this tragedy happen, and it's an opportunity now for me to step up and move past any fear. This is an opportunity right now, this month, to move past my old fears, my old patterns. Am I going to keep going down that same place? Well, I know where that leads. Everybody knows their old patterns. They know where that leads. It's not it's not a surprise per se. So where do I want to go? And spiritually, life is meant to be an adventure. It's meant to be a path of discovery. So do I feel I'm on that path? Do I feel, if I'm not, then there's no need to complain. There's no need to, oh, my parents, oh, the money this, oh, the government that. No. You've just blown a bunch of energy. Instead of saying, I'm not where I want to be, okay, how do I get there? Okay, what do I need to do? Who are the people I need to connect with? Right? I was just regrouping with somebody. Knowledge is limiting, right? There's a Einstein quote about that. But creativity is everything. It is everything. It is the essence of the soul on display, right? To let that creativity come out. So I'm not saying let's make light of these terrible things that are happening. I'm saying let's use them as an opportunity to move forward. Let's use the whole month as an opportunity to set our energy so that when we start the spiritual new year in September, we're doing something with it, that I've already got momentum moving into it. Otherwise, guess what? Last year will be just like this coming year because I haven't changed. I just put new lipstick on the pig and here we go again wrestling.
I was going to say, hey, Tiger, what if I like to be fearful?
There you go. Well, then you got plenty.
Hey,
There's plenty of opportunity for that.
A lot to work with.
Plenty of opportunity.
Well, I've often said, you're going to keep doing it until you get tired of it.
That's right.
Or you learn the lesson.
Or you learn the lesson.
And that's why these patterns keep showing up.
That's right.
All these patterns. And like you're saying, with the young kids that don't know anything about World War II and things in the past that have happened, well, if they're parents and then they don't understand the lessons, they're going to have to redo it.
That's it.
Learn it until you get the lesson.
And so the challenge with that is making sure that the rest of us, with everybody listening, is if you are aware of those things, if you are clear about what you need to move toward, is having clear direction, because otherwise I'm going to get caught up in other people's learning lessons. I'll get stimulated by the great-grandfather of the great-grandfather of all this kind of stuff, because I don't have that clear direction. And I can't be in two places at once, right? I mean, I can think of a lot of thoughts. Like we all can think of a lot of thoughts. My gosh, I'm sure now with all people watching the, TikTok and all the shorts, we're going through a lot of concepts really fast. But it's still, at the end of the day, I can only think and process one thing at a time, right? Like if I think about slicing a piece of pie, right? Imagine a pie that you like, and you're slicing that piece of pie. And then you can also think about needing to clean the house, right? Now, you can think about them. I can think about this and I can think about this, but I can't actually think about them simultaneously, right? I can't think about slicing the pie simultaneously thinking about cleaning the house. I can flip back and forth, but I can't really do them all at once, right? And that's that symbolism of my energy. I can only put my energy into one thing to have a result. If I get my energy scattered, I'm not going to be able to produce anything because I'm all over the place.
I really feel sad for you, Tiger, because I can eat a key lime pie and clean the damn floors. So I don't know what you're talking about. Just saying. So we started today with talking.
Technically, that's not true.
Yes. Why?
Because it might be a nanosecond, but you're doing one thing at a different time.
I'm chewing and I'm sweeping, or I'm chewing and I'm vacuuming. And a lot of times I drink when I do things too.
Drink water.
I am freaking talented.
Multitasker.
Women are. So yeah, multitasking. So we started this conversation with asking a question: who are you choosing to become while the world is changing? So let's move a little bit back into that, because there's a choice.
That's it.
We have a choice. And so Tom, what's your take on that?
Well, I'm glad you brought us back to that, because what's been on my mind for the last couple minutes is just how recognizing that people are going to be who they are, or they're going to, certain things are going to come up. So what I can change is my response. And what was the question again? How did you put that? Because
who are you choosing to become while the world is changing?
Is do I want to be the victim?
Mm-hmm.
And so, where, I think a symptom of that, if I'm in victim mode, I'm starting to say, well, they should have never said that to me. And that was so wrong. And, even if it's a little thing, right? That is, instead of going, okay, they have that concern. Is that any of my business? Like, is that something I need to deal with right now? What's the solution? Okay, let's get together later and we'll discuss that, a better way forward, or let's fix that now, whatever checks in the moment. But the feeling I have is, okay, like as Tiger was describing earlier, it's like, okay, let's move forward. Okay, let's move, acknowledge the concern, whether I think it was true or not. What's the solution? Move forward to using my creativity to move forward.
I guess I'll state the obvious, and that is choice I have choice because I am a soul with a physical body, and I have a plan here. And I chose that. I chose that. I chose my spiritual helpers. I chose my parents. I chose my situation, and I chose this time. And the whole thing is choice. Now, I may be unconscious of a lot of that, but in the end, I do have that choice. And if I'm exercising it, now I don't have to go around thinking all the time, I'm going to make this choice, I'm going to make this choice. I'm just saying, if I'm exercising that I'm in charge of my energy, that is a healing for not only myself, for my physical body, for the people in my environment, and for the places I go worship or go to work. It just expands. If I can be a little bit consistent with that, I mean, I'm in charge of my energy, and I need to be respectful that everybody else is in charge of their energy, right? So I'm not here to overwhelm someone in what they're to do. I'm here to be directed in my energy. And there's like a little technique we used to do. It's a simple technique, right? And you take your hand and you put it like this, right? If you're just listening, you put your palm up and you take your other hand, and you put it right in the middle of your palm, and you go, "This is my ballpark. I can do what I want in my ballpark. I make the rules in my ballpark. If you don't like my ballpark, you can get the hell out of my ballpark," right? And it was an old simple technique to remind me that I'm in charge of my energy. I'm in charge of me. And that whole thing of who am I becoming, that's my choice. So do I want to do that or not? And everything else after that, I can let go and let someone else play that game, because there's always going to be the injustice. There's always going to be the excuse. There's always going to be the right and wrong. But what won't always be here is me and what I've come to do. That is unique to me and unique to everyone listening to this. Am I doing that? Because that's what I've come to do at this time.
Limited time. Limited time only.
We're just renting.
And for myself, the choice is a big deal, because I have a choice in everything that I do. I can do it or not do it. And I've been this way in the past too, where I've, been led by other people and done things that maybe if I had thought more about it or had, felt more into what am I doing, I may not have made that choice. Like, all kinds of things.
Yeah, I think because we have these, ways that we've reacted. I have had these ways I've reacted over my lifetime that in some ways have been successful, in the sense that the game I wanted to play, they're good for that. If I want to play the victim, I can play the victim. If I want to get caught in the justice or injustice of something, I have my ways of being involved in that to feel superior or something like that, which is just more of an emotional thing rather than a true feelings, thing.
Yeah. So now let's end this with back to this month, which is August of 2026, and we're in the energy of loyalty. So let's wrap this up with some positive vibes on loyalty.
Yeah. So to wrap it up for me, it really has to do with coming back home whenever I'm not feeling happy, right? I don't need to be running around like a clown all the time. I'm just saying, do I feel I'm moving forward? Am I happy about what I have? Am I happy that I'm moving forward? And that's my barometer. If I don't feel, it's that old saying is, if you can't be happy at all times, something's wrong. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. That's my barometer. It's like, well, wait a minute. Because if I'm doing what I want to do, doing what I need to do, it's more natural to feel happy, feel good. So it's really about, okay, this is the time to get myself back on my path. and then to be consistent about it. And when I feel, just like you were saying, Tom, when I feel that thing come in that wants me to play the old game, that wants me to play out someone else's game or interact with something that's not healthy for me, I can say, yeah, Olay, I remember that. I remember that. And the psychiatrists have a thing about, observe the thought. Instead of jumping in and getting involved in it, it's actually an old Stoic thing for thousands of years ago. But basically, I observe the thought. Rather than engaging with it, I observe the thought. So it puts me back to that higher energy as a soul of who I am, what I've come to do. This is the opportunity to do it. When I have all that extra backing from loyalty to self so that I can be of service to people, and find people of like mind. And then the last piece is I need to be willing to love enough to let people go. I need to love people enough to let them go. And what I mean by that is just not throw away people. I'm saying if I free people, if I stop being possessive over ideas and people and things, I free them. And the things that actually need to be a part of my life and my journey will hover with me, will be in my orbit. But if I get possessive, I'm getting involved with the past and all the past loyalties and all the past sour grapes and all that good stuff. But when I start be willing to let people go, let my old ideas go, and just get back into that loyalty and what I've come to do, this is a tremendous time for that. And I would be shocked, or you would be shocked, at how free and how simple everything becomes.
For me, when what we're sharing about is just, I got to choose to be the leadership that I am or not. And it's okay to play the game, but by being loyal to myself, I start to become more aware. And then I start to become a better leader of myself. And I also relate to what you're sharing in that, I've just got to respect what other folks have decided to go through. Usually when I'm disappointed or hit, it's like I've projected, I know as a visionary, I'll have projected on to them what I think they should be doing. And then when they don't, I'm like missing the point that, they're going to be who they are. They're going to, I can see where they're headed. Great. But it's not up to me to somehow fix them or save them. The best way I can do that really is be loyal to myself so that the energy that radiates out from me is a positive, loving, accepting vibration. And, so that to me, this is what life's all about, that I can have an understanding, you might say, of what spiritual ideas are. But if I'm involved in the school of life where, as much as I preach love and inner peace, I'm going to get zinged if my motives get off. If I'm starting to participate in, trying to change people or save people when they're not ready for that, that's when my troubles can start showing up again. And anyway, I think it's like an unfolding. We always say this, it's a constant unfolding of awareness, but allowing the true power that I have within to shine and practice that more.
Yeah, I guess for myself, it's about the choice and also about not judging others, kind of what you're saying, Tom, but not judging others of what they're wanting to become, because they need to go through their learning just as I need to go through my learning. So, and giving them distance, giving them space. So whatever you choose to become out there, listeners, we hope that you access the energy of loyalty for the month of August and moving forward into the spiritual new year in September, which of course we'll have more sharing between now and then, and really access it to have more positive energy, to express yourself and what you want to share with the world, and also do it in a fearless way. And screw that fear. So until next time, thanks so much for joining us. To keep the enthusiasm going, please like, subscribe, or comment below. We would love to hear from you. There's a stronger current moving right now, and it may be revealing more than you expected. Firehorse energy brings courage and momentum and reveals where clarity is needed. The Reawaken membership is your monthly pause, a place to ground, reflect, and allow your inner guidance to reveal your next step. When everything speeds up, we slow down. So what is revealed becomes wisdom. If you're feeling the shift, we're here. Reawaken with us. As the Earth's crust shifts and changes, our lives do the same. One way to maneuver through the small and large moments that shake us to the core is by reviving your connection to spirit, gathering ways to cleanse your energy field, embracing spiritual awarenesses to give you a bigger picture, and knowing that you are not alone on your journey can be a great support. The Soul Quake Survival Guidebook is a great companion to meet you where you're at and support reviving your connection to spirit in earth-shaking times. Get your copy today through Amazon worldwide in paperback, ebook, or in audio, and begin embracing more clarity, inner peace, and enthusiasm for your life and what you've come to do.